best compliment I get is when I talk to my old team members. They're always like, "We're still using what you created."
Yeah.
And like, that's because I made sure you didn't need me.
Right.
And a lot of times as managers, we get caught up in, I don't want the next person to replace me.
Right.
When in reality, I can't get promoted if my leader doesn't see that someone can promote under me.
Right.
Because they're afraid that once I leave, it's all going to collapse.
Yeah.
So we get that so backwards.
Yeah.
But they taught me that I could depend on my folks. And even as we began to perform and we began to scale over there, my team grew even more. I took on different types of work. I was asked to take on an entirely different department. It was our login admin department, where essentially every credential that came into the company.
Hey, what up, fam? This is Saul Levy, host of Africans in Tech, where we're building bridges and shaping futures in tech. On the episode today, we got Sean Ilenrey.
Yeah.
I bet, man. I got it right first go, man.
Exactly.
I pinged Sean on Instagram, and it's funny enough, Abdi told me about you before, and I saw some clips initially of you doing some work back in Africa. So I was like, let me hit dude up. But even before I got a chance to do that, Abdi told me about you, and I was like, this is fate, man.
Yeah, that's my guy too.
Yeah, it means you got to be on the pod, bro.
Just to clarify, I am not dressed as well as Abdi today. But I love that guy.
Yeah. You look good enough though, man.
I appreciate it.
Cool, man. So usually what we do is like just have guests tell a little bit about themselves, where they're from, nothing technical, man, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Cool.
So my story, I believe a lot of times we focus on our highlights. You know, what have we accomplished? What have we done? I think we kind of have to move a little bit further back.
Okay.
So the reality of who I am is Nigerian American. I was born here in Atlanta.
Okay.
2 immigrant parents. I'm a first generation American, but I'm Niger all day.
Okay.
However, I was that kid that did the opposite of what Nigerian parents expect.
Okay.
They want you to do good in school, go become a doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a singer. I was caught up in that life.
Okay.
Now I had the intelligence to become an attorney.
Yeah.
But I love the arts.
Gotcha.
And I got to a point where, to be honest, I messed up in school. I messed up really bad my 9th grade year, moved around a lot.
Okay.
So I wasn't going to graduate on time. And I ended up dropping out, saying I'll get my GED and go to college.
Gotcha.
Found myself not able to get a job, homeless, living in a car, sleeping on friends' floors.
Okay.
And I'm that kid at 19 years old that everyone looked at and said, you're going to be dead or in jail.
Gotcha.
He's a disgrace, you know?
Yeah.
But then you fast forward 10 years later, and I'm a vice president at a company here in Atlanta.
Nice.
And it was one of those scenarios where I had to lock in over that 10-year period. So yes, the success came, but from a very humble beginning.
Yeah. Okay. So stepping back a bit, were you born there?
I was born in Atlanta. Yeah.
Okay. You've been back?
Yes. For the first time this past November, which is sad. Okay. I traveled a lot, especially for work, but I always wanted to go to Nigeria with my dad, and he passed away when I want to say I was around 26. Okay. So I never made it back with him, because I know that once you get home, you know, you don't know who's who, and family wants certain things. So I finally went back this past November for a conference, and now I want to go every year. You know, I have a lot of Nigerian brothers. We're in a brotherhood. Yeah. They go every single year. I just can't go during Christmas. I have kids.
We were just talking about the prices, bro.
Yes. Triple the price.
Exactly, man. Okay. All right. So in the States wise, in terms of like connections back home, because your parents are from Nigeria directly. So was there any connections like back there, like initially growing up?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because we didn't have social media back then. So that was more difficult. You get the phone call where you get the call, you get the card, you can call long distance, and then everyone's screaming, "Hello, can you hear me?" You know? And we had those moments, but really in Atlanta, especially in the 90s, we had a culture where there were so many Nigerians coming in. Yeah. And because you had individuals who had degrees and who did well back home, but they struggled when they got here in the States, they came together. Yeah. And they kind of built together. So my parents were a part of that, where it felt like we had a Nigerian function or party every month.
Gotcha.
And when they would have these parties, they would be house parties or in a hall, but they're bringing the kids with them. So my mom's friends and my dad's friends, they were my aunts and uncles. Their children were my cousins. So I grew up around Nigerian culture and with my family that I thought were my cousins. And they weren't by blood, but they were by tribe.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So growing up, I guess, in Atlanta, what are some difficulties that you faced? Because you said, you went through a lot of challenges initially, man. So
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest challenge that happened to me growing up was moving around a lot.
okay,
I went to over 12, maybe even 14 different schools before we even count college.
wow, all through Georgia.
All Georgia and Florida.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay,
And it was a combination of my mom getting leadership roles in different companies,
gotcha.
a bigger combination of my mother and my father consistently splitting up until they finally made that official when I was about 10 years old when we moved to Florida.
Gotcha.
So I was always that new kid,
Okay.
where
Yeah.
you have to adapt fast. When
Yeah.
you walk in a room, you're talking to folks who have grown up together. They've
Yeah.
3, 4 years, 10 years in the same place. I'm that new guy.
The outsider, yeah.
Yeah. So that was always the hardest thing for me. And then also, just when my parents split, it's that feeling of my family's different.
Gotcha.
So I carried a lot of that with me. And thankfully, my father remarried an amazing woman.
Yeah.
And now I have 8 siblings,
Yeah,
It's a blended family.
Yeah.
And I love it. 7 sisters, 1 little brother. So it's 2 guys and 7 girls. And I grew up tortured. But that experience of growing up with a lot of sisters, a blended family, dealing with the heartbrokenness of my parents splitting and constantly moving, it changed my mindset where it allowed me to see human connection is so important, and it doesn't matter how long or how short you've known that person.
Right. Yeah.
It matters how deep you can engage with that person.
Yeah. It's kind of off topic. I'm thinking about like the Kobe incident. Like, not a lot of people knew Kobe personally.
Yeah.
But when he passed, for like the whole world was crying, bro.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It was timely that COVID happened right afterwards. Then George Floyd, 2020 was really the year of loss.
Yeah.
Because we started off with the loss of Kobe, and it wasn't just Kobe, it was his daughter and the families and the other children on that helicopter that made it hit harder.
Yeah.
And also because with Kobe, I say this all the time, he's a person who dedicated his life to his career.
Yeah.
Everything he did, he worked hard. He was in the gym early, out of it late.
Yeah.
And he was a high competitor. You never really saw him smile that much.
Right.
When he retired, he was a completely different person.
Yeah.
He could care less about basketball.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I'm like, how did he separate that?
Yeah. Yeah.
He understood that basketball wasn't his identity. It was the things that he could do in it, whether it was champions, whether it was achieving new things or challenging himself. So we got to finally see Kobe the human.
Yeah.
And then we lost him.
Yeah.
So that was painful.
Yeah. That was tough, man. Okay. So you're in between Florida and Georgia. When you went to college, what was that like, and where was it?
Yeah. So, of course, I had the period where I messed up. I finally started to clean my life up, got a job.
Okay.
Ended up going to finish up high school and then went straight to college.
Okay.
I went to Gwinnett Tech first.
Okay.
At the time, I think I was doing media studies.
Okay.
Took a break from there, and then I went to Gainesville State, and I was studying communication. And I was banking and finance at Gwinnett Tech, and then I was studying media and communications.
Okay.
But I didn't finish.
Okay.
I was in the boat where my wife and I met relatively young. We had our first kid. I was 21. She was 19.
Gotcha.
And then my mother also fell ill from kidney failure. So she couldn't work like she needed to. So her and my grandma moved in with me. So you kind of make that choice of, do you focus on your college education or do you focus on taking care of your family today?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember my mom telling me, she said, if you don't go to school, you need to make sure you have just as many years of experience as your friends have of education.
Yeah.
And that focus kept me employed and kind of challenged me. So when I say I went and became an executive by the time I was 28, 29, it's not because I was special. It's because I didn't have a choice. I was taking care of an extended family.
Yeah.
And it was all sacrifice. And it was a hard period, but I'm grateful for it because it opened up doors for even my children now that I don't know if I would have gotten to where I got to if I didn't have that motivation.
Definitely. So you talked about like wanting to be a singer and stuff. Like where was that in this period?
Oh man, so it's the embarrassing part.
Can you spit a tune right quick, bro?
I'm a little hoarse today. Actually, I'm a little hoarse. I don't know why. But where that came from was when I was a baby. My babysitter, whenever I would cry or get upset, would play the Bad album, Michael Jackson. She put on the Bad song.
Okay.
And when that song would play, no matter what I was doing, I would stop, go crawl to the speaker and start dancing.
Yeah.
So I just fell in love with Michael Jackson from a young age. And, of course, you start picking up the dance moves. So at every Nigerian party, it was...
You were the guy?
They put on Michael Jackson, Sean come dance. And then they're spraying the money.
Yeah.
And my nickname was Michael Jackson. Anybody, my family has extended,
Yeah.
hey, Michael Jackson, So I grew up just loving performing. Then I got into songwriting. And then I had my own studio. And that just became an outlet for me. But what I didn't know was I was high IQ and
Okay.
I learned really fast.
Yeah.
So in school, I would kill every test.
Yeah.
I hated classwork. I hated homework.
Yeah.
Because it was the repetitive aspect of it.
Right.
And my mind would drift off to always making a song or making some choreography. So
Yeah.
music was everything to me. As I got older, my later teen years, when I had my studio, I ended up getting a management deal. Okay. So I got a management deal. Wow. And I got to see the industry. I would go behind the scenes. I was in T.I.'s movie, ATL.
Yeah. Okay.
Extra. I got to see behind the scenes, and I kind of realized I don't like this industry.
Gotcha.
That's really what got me, was that.
Like, what specifically didn't you like about the?
I felt as if you had to sacrifice a lot.
Okay.
Whether it was, a lot of it was your dignity and your integrity, because even just the auditioning process, people are very cutthroat. And gotcha. We saw it on like America's Next Top Model and shows like that.
Yeah.
The original American Idol, where they will tell you where your shortcomings are.
Yeah.
But there's a process of breaking you in order to build you up, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But when you're a young, starving artist, you'll do things out of desperation. So because I need this record deal, whatever you need me to do, I'm gonna do it. And I didn't want to be that person.
Yeah.
And a lot at that time, a lot of the music industry was seeing the drug dealers come in and kind of take over.
Gotcha.
And start to move their money towards that platform. So it just felt like a place that I felt, could I be successful, whether it's as a songwriter or a dancer or as a singer? Yes.
Yeah.
But the risk of having to give up so much while I have a son on the way just didn't make any sense to me.
Gotcha. What age was this?
So I was signed, I want to say, when I was 20. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, kudos to you, bro. Because I mean, at that young age, a lot of folks would have kind of gave into that. The fact that you were thinking ahead, that's really good, man.
Well, I had a kid. That's what made me wake up.
Yeah.
Where I was like, okay, I cut my braids off.
Yeah. You had braids back then.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And that was my thing, was you kind of create this identity.
Gotcha.
As young men, we know how we want to look, how we want to move.
Yeah.
But that symbolism of shaving off my head and saying, I choose my son over this part of my life, I needed that.
That's dope.
It doesn't mean that I can't still be myself. I just need to find my new self.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, we as people, we think, if I'm not a singer, I have no value. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
It wasn't singing that I was in love with this. It's the things that I got out of it. And I still get that today without having to be a singer.
Yeah. Well, that's good, man. Because I think even from a tech standpoint, it's big within African culture where what you do is who you are.
Yes.
And we tie a lot that to identity. Like, if you're not a doctor, lawyer, or successful person, then you're pretty much nothing, which isn't true, but that's kind of what a lot of us have grown around. So I'm glad that you identified who you are early, and then you kind of stuck to that. So that's dope, bro.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. All right. So communication degree, and, kind of moving past that, what was next?
Yeah. So what ended up happening for me, I ended up working my way up in retail. This is actually, I'll go back to before I met my wife, and I was at a place where I finally got a job.
Okay.
But I couldn't use my car anymore because I couldn't pass the emission inspection,
Gotcha.
So it was one of those things where it was like, now I have to walk to work. So I moved in with my mom. She had a place up in Beaufort by the Mall of Georgia.
Okay.
So I ended up moving in with her. She got settled on her feet. And I would walk to work every day. So I'd walk to the mall from my house, maybe a 30-minute walk. And then I would go there and I would work at the time it was Wet Seal, I think.
Okay.
And I learned the hack that women's clothing stores were always going to hire men.
Gotcha.
They needed us to help with stock equipment. And I love talking to women all day.
Yeah.
So it was a win-win. And then I got a second job at Finish Line upstairs. So I'm just building myself back up, getting enough money to pay off my tickets I had, to get my car in order. And I finally got my car in order. And now I can go down the street and I got a job at Walgreens.
Okay.
And at this moment, my first day on the job, my store manager had me doing everything.
Gotcha.
He really put me through the ringer to the point where we went back to the stock room.
Okay.
And he said, I need you to climb up 50 feet. I'm going to hand you these metal rails that I need you to stack 12 feet high. We did that for at least 6 hours.
Dang.
And
just you and him?
Just me and him. I was doing the work. He was just getting them.
That's crazy.
But after that day, he said, you're different. He said, most people would never do what you just did, especially young folks.
Right.
And he said, I got you. Whatever you need, I got you. So he gave me as many hours. And then the pharmacist ended up noticing me. And she's like, why are you here? You need to be at school. You're too smart.
Yeah.
So she said, come back here. I'm going to hire you in the pharmacy as a tech. And that was a bit taboo because typically when you're working at Walgreens, you have to be there for at least 2 or 3 years before you can get that type of promotion.
Gotcha.
But she saw something in me, gave me that role. I knocked that out the park, thought I was going to be a pharmacist, but I realized this feels like I'm working at McDonald's.
Yeah.
You have the drive through,
Gotcha.
you're filling prescriptions.
Yeah.
And as a pharmacist, it felt like you just sat there and read the screen
Gotcha.
and told the patient what to do. So I just didn't entice me mentally.
Okay.
But then I had a family friend who said, we're hiring pharmacy technicians at our contact center. It was with a company called Affiliated Computer Services, which became Xerox.
Okay.
And it was for the state of Texas Medicaid. And
Nice.
I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what a contact center is. But you're telling me I'm going to get paid $5 more an hour, and I'll be able to sit down for the first time in my career. So I said, sign me up.
Nice.
So I took that role, and that started me on my journey of doing contact center role. A lot of it was in the medical space, and then eventually I transitioned.
Okay. So what year was this?
So that was 2007.
Okay.
And then I was on the front lines until about 2010, and I got fired.
Okay. Do you want to talk about that?
So this is the best moment in my career.
Okay.
So of course, through this 3-year period, I'm working for multiple companies.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm at a specific company where I'm still doing medical work, but it's more so pharmaceutical benefits, pharmaceutical support, and hospice support. So as a new hospice patient comes in, I have to check them out, make sure their medications are right.
Gotcha.
What ended up happening was I agreed to work the closing shift every Friday. Okay. So let's say Monday through Thursday, I work mid shift where I get off at 7, 8 p.m. And then on Fridays, I would come in and close. And then every other week, I would do 3 days during the mid shift and 2 days overnight. But overnight, I'm the only one in the building. I'm by myself.
Gotcha.
So it can be a little scary at first, a little lonely.
Yeah.
But what ended up catching me was that I would come back late for my breaks. I'd be late to work. And one night I decided I didn't want to stay in the office to eat lunch overnight. I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
And I ended up leaving. I left the building too long, got in trouble for that. And I go to work that next Monday and they call me in the office and they're like, you're fired.
Wow.
And
first offense on? That's crazy.
No, it was many offenses. But I had been late so many times, but that was the last one. So it wasn't so much that I did it, it's that I ran out of so many attempts.
Gotcha.
So having to call my then fiance and let her know, I just lost my job. Over half our income is gone. That was the hardest thing in the world to me. Like I said, we had a young kid at the time. My mother and grandma living with us. She's working, but I have the bulk of the income. Yeah. So I knew I had to move differently. Yeah. I could never approach my career the same way. Yeah. And what I learned was that I have to treat my career as if they need me more than I need them. Yeah. I have to put myself in the sense of I'm valuable. What am I bringing to the table where they want to invest in me? Yeah. And I'm almost like a business. So it went from being just hey, I'm here to clock in, I'm gonna do whatever, and I'm out of here. Yeah. It was, how do I come in here? How do I provide you with services? How do I go above and beyond? Yeah. And how do I do the job of the next role so I can get promoted? Yeah. And that's what changed my life, because in my very next role, I was hired for an analyst position, a workforce analyst position, where I got the opportunity to do SQL work, work in an IT office, and kind of understand how the contact centers work from a technical standpoint. Gotcha. Because I had been I've been on the front lines for so long, I never got to see, what is the bigger picture? Okay. So that role opened up so many doors for me.
How did you, I guess, get into that role, the analyst role?
So once again, relationships. I was in a position where after I lost that job, I was applying for so many frontline roles, and I normally got them like that. But in this scenario, I just kept messing up. Whether it was during the assessments, I would click the wrong button by accident and you failed the assessment, no interview's going to happen. Yeah. I just couldn't get a job. Yeah. So I had a family friend who was saying, hey, I would love for you to come work for my team. I didn't know what they did. What is analytics? I have no clue what that is. Yeah. And I said, I'm open to it, but the role was an hour and a half away from my house. Okay. So I'm over by the Mall of Georgia. It's over in Kennesaw. So I'm like, do I really want to take this job? So I kept pushing it off. I finally said yes to interview, killed the interview with him, his leadership team, and his VP, and they loved me. Yeah. I accept the offer. It's the most I had ever been paid in my life, $32,000. Nice. Yeah. It was a salary, not hourly, so I felt special. Yeah. And my first week on the job, my car breaks down on the way home. Wow. So now that extra income has to go towards buying a new car. Yeah. But I stayed at it, and what ended up happening in that role was about 4 months into it, my supervisor leaves the company because my VP got ousted, but he took my leader with him. Okay. And I was worried because my two peers were in Utah. Gotcha. So what's the point of keeping me?
Yeah.
Why not get rid of my role and just hire another role out there? So also we had no leadership.
Gotcha.
We were working in a part of the business that no one really knew how to run.
Mm-hmm.
So I just stepped up and said, I'm the senior analyst.
Yeah.
So what we ended up doing was cover 6 days a week. 6 days a week we were working. I would come in Sundays all day by myself, open to close to work, get everything ready. On Mondays, I would come in, set up strategy, have morning meetings, make sure SQL, everything's set up properly.
Yeah.
I would leave and come back and close on Mondays, and I would work Tuesday through Thursday,
Okay.
morning shift. So I did that for an entire year as a senior analyst, no pay increase, no official title.
Okay.
And then I finally got promoted to supervisor, which was nice, about a year later.
Gotcha.
So it was my first role in leadership, and I was enjoying it. But then about a year after that, once again, the leader we had at the time, he was leaving the company. So there was an opening for the manager role. Do I go for that? Okay. And I talked to my leader.
Before you go there, what were you doing as an analyst specifically?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what we were doing from an analytics standpoint was, it was all about sales.
Okay.
So it was outbound dialing campaigns.
Okay.
So what we'd have to do is identify, this is the lead list.
Yep.
These are the targets. We need to have this penetration rate, this conversion rate, this sales yield in order for our clients to feel satisfied. We also did it from a medical standpoint too, where it was non-sales related, but typically it would be sales related.
Gotcha.
And my job was to come up with the dialing strategy.
Okay. What
customer segment are we going to go after? How do I set up our filters in a way where I'm going to push out leads that are going to convert really high to kind of boost morale, and then I'll mix in the low performing leads, but they won't know it. Yeah. But their morale is going to be so high that now they can perform through the difficult leads.
Gotcha.
So it was constant strategy, and then we did everything via SQL because the system was limited at the time.
Okay.
So that's really what was our role at the time. That expanded to workforce analytics, which is looking at forecasting and capacity planning. Yeah. When am I going to need more resources? Where do I need these resources? And how do I make sure we have them before, how to make sure we hire before we lose those resources?
Gotcha. That's dope. I think oftentimes we think SQL like just strict technical, like building softwares and things like that. Yeah. But, using that from a business standpoint, I love that, bro. So,
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing.
But you learned.
And that was the thing about it was, even Excel, people look at me now like, how are you so good at Excel? I was like, it's because of what my day job was, where I learned your career can be the best thing to set you up for owning your own business. Yeah. It's going to force you to learn skills that you don't know you need, but are going to be so useful for yourself.
Definitely, man. Cool. So you're moving now into, actually, before I even go there, another thing that I think has become like a theme, taking up additional roles without additional pay, but learning like different skill sets that's building you up. And I think oftentimes people aren't willing to sacrifice their times in order to look long term. And I think that to me was exceptional for you at that age. And you're like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm taking on more services and more work. And you don't have like a clear picture of what's happening, but you have a desire to kind of grow and excel. So that's dope for you to do that, man.
I appreciate it. I think I had some good folks behind me, because even with that company, with the analytics role, I wanted to leave. I wanted to go work for ADP.
Okay.
Because for the same role, they were paying substantially more.
Gotcha.
Actually, for the role below me, they were paying substantially more. And my mother told me at the time, she said, trust me, don't leave this role.
Yeah.
She said, I know a lot of people are leaving this company. It's a little shaky right now, but you may be the last one standing.
Gotcha.
And that will launch your career. And she was right, because what ended up happening was my manager at the time ended up leaving. The fifth manager they had hired to be over our department, because they kept cycling through them. And he looked at me, he was like, he told me in a meeting, he said, Sean, could you do my job? I was like, I think so. He was like, I think so too. And the next day he was gone.
That's crazy.
So now our director at the time, her name was Heather.
He didn't key you up or nothing? He just left?
Well, let me correct that. He was also responsible for being in charge of this large capacity planning file that we had.
Okay.
And it was more so, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was a file that allowed us to do capacity planning, but also project sales and sales performance.
Gotcha.
And it was very tedious. So he showed me one time, he was like, figure this out. When I got it, there were so many errors in the cells, a lot of circle references.
Yeah.
So my first day working on it was just fixing the file. I spent 8 hours fixing this Excel sheet.
Yeah.
And then whenever there was a new month that had 30 or 31 days, I had to start all over again and fix it.
Yeah.
But we needed it because our clients had the expectation that we got the accurate data.
Gotcha.
So, once he showed me that, all of a sudden he was gone, and I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
So I now have a director that he was reporting into, but now I had a direct line to her.
Okay.
And her and I, when she first joined the company, we had some conversations in passing. So we had good rapport, but now we get to work together.
Gotcha.
So I told her, I said, it would be great if I could hire some more people. We're at a time where, because of how we're performing, my strategy ended up helping us become the top performing vendor for this client nationwide and really globally, because we had resources overseas as well.
Gotcha.
So I said, now that we're growing, the work is still here. Can I hire some more folks? I want to hire some more folks in Utah. And she said, don't hire analysts in Utah. How about you hire them in Mexico? Because she was based in Mexico at the time. She's from Wisconsin.
Gotcha.
But she was down there in Mexico running a site.
Okay.
And I said, you know what? Yeah, I'd love to do that. I'll fly down there for a couple weeks and train them. Great.
Nice.
The next call we had, she said, well, you know what? How about you move down here?
To Mexico?
Yes.
Okay.
So I hesitated. And she told me, she said, if you come move to Mexico, by building a team outside of your country, it's going to change your resume for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So I talked to my wife about it. My wife's a ride or die.
Yeah.
She's that, yep.
Shout out
let's
to
do
wife.
it.
Yeah.
Shout out to wife. And at the time, we had just gotten married. She's pregnant with our second child.
Yeah. My
mother and my grandmother are still living with us. And, you know, her family, I'm finally in better graces with her parents. But when I dropped the bomb that, hey, we're going to relocate to Mexico, that didn't go so well, you know, because everyone's scared. You look at Mexico on the news and you worry about crime and cartel.
Yep.
But we were able to get their buy-in. But the tough part was my dad was battling cancer.
Okay.
So he had gone into remission and it came back. So it was that decision of, do we move forward? Do you kind of fight for your future and a better future, or do you stick around and take care of those folks around you today? Yeah. Because I couldn't bring my mom to Mexico with me. I couldn't be there for my dad. I couldn't, continue to do what I was doing. But I also knew making the money I was making wasn't going to be enough to take care of everybody. Yeah. So we ended up relocating and loved it in Mexico. But now I'm officially the manager for the first time.
Gotcha.
You know? And I learned so much about leadership because I hired 5 folks out there, all very different skill sets. Yeah. And I knew nothing about leadership, just being honest. Yeah. You know, I couldn't speak Spanish either. Yeah. But they taught me that I could rely on my team. You know, how do I take the different areas they're strong at and maximize that versus trying to fit them into a box that ultimately would make them fail? And then at the same time, I don't want you competing against each other. I want you just being the champion of your area. Yeah. So it was great because even though the company wouldn't give us the resources to buy the best tools, I now have folks on my team who could help me build our own tools. Yeah. So we were able to get a lot more done, and that team just helped me grow up. Nice, man.
I mean, a lot of nuggets there. One of the biggest things I'm taking away from that is being honest with yourself. Like, you're not, you don't have all this experience as a great leader, manager, whatever, but you're honest with yourself there. But you also are willing to work with your team and utilize their strengths to help build one another and grow in that. What are some things, I guess, that you learned through that process that still, I guess, stay true even now?
Yeah, I said the biggest thing is I was deathly afraid of teaching. Okay. Even with having my first kid, I would ask, how do we teach them how to walk? How do we teach them how to talk? I was so insecure about that because I learned very fast. I don't know how to slow down. Gotcha. And that intimidated me. Working with that team taught me, for one, you can teach. It is possible. And how to adapt to different people's learning styles. Nice. And why SOPs are so important. Yep. So whether you have your own business or whether you're leading a team, you need to have standard operating procedures. Because once you have that in place, you could leave tomorrow and it can still run. Yep. And the best compliment I get is when I talk to my old team members, they're always like, we're still using what you created. Yeah. And like, that's because I made sure you didn't need me. Right. And a lot of times as managers, we get caught up in, I don't want the next person to replace me. Right. When in reality, I can't get promoted if my leader doesn't see that someone can promote under me. Right. Because they're afraid that once I leave, it's all going to collapse. Yeah. So we get that so backwards. Yeah. But they taught me that I could depend on my folks. And even as we began to perform and we began to scale over there, my team grew even more. I took on different types of work. I was asked to take on an entirely different department. It was our login admin department, where essentially every credential that came into the company, we were responsible for activating them, deactivating them, making sure they had the right security clearance, etc. Nice. And the problem was that when I took over that team, that entire team quit the same day because they didn't want to be under new management.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
And this is when I was still in Mexico.
Yeah.
So I had to look at my team and say, who on my team can help me make a difference?
Gotcha.
And there was a gentleman named Caesar that I said I could use him as a leader over here to help me build this up. And on day one, he and I spent hours together. Now, he was my real database master. I mean, from database engineering, he was that guy. And you sit back with Caesar and you're like, what are you doing here? And when you have a conversation with Caesar, when I first met him, he was probably making a couple bucks an hour as a call center agent.
Yeah.
But when you talk to him, he was actually an engineer here in the US. And what happened was he got deported on a technicality. His wife was born in the US and so were his 3 children, but they all came to Mexico with him. Gotcha. So when I hired him, they were living in basically a shack in his aunt's backyard. Man. And you would never know because he didn't carry that. When he got to work, he was just about work and finding new ways and always discovering new ways to do things. So when this login admin role came open, I was able to move him over there and he was able to build that team out and kind of got his own analyst and grow it. And then I ended up moving back to the States. And at this point, I got promoted to a senior manager, a global manager. Yeah. So I came back to visit my team in Mexico one time, and he's like, "Sean, hop in the car. I want to show you something." So
this is Caesar.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have my rental car. I'm driving behind him. We're just driving. Where are we going? I'm just driving through Mexico. And we pull up to this neighborhood, and we pull up to this house. He gets out. He points to it, and he's like, "Because of you, I was able to provide a home for my family."
Beautiful, man.
And that changed everything. Yeah. Where I realized I had been so caught up in how do I provide for my family that I forgot that leadership is a bigger responsibility. It's literally the ability to take someone's life and make a difference. Yeah. So after that, I got obsessed where it doesn't matter what type of leadership or where I'm doing it. I'm here to change and transform lives, but it all goes back to what I was able to do with Caesar.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, it started from a conversation. Yeah. I think a lot of times that's what's missing between leadership and, the team. Yes. They don't have that honest conversation, how things are going. And not just, you would have found out how he's doing from a professional standpoint, but also family wise. Yeah. Like how, the technicality of him being deported and all that other jazz, like, you were vested in learning more about him. Yeah. I think a lot of times from a leadership perspective, we're so focused on the business that the individual gets kind of swept under. So absolutely. It's good that you saw that, man.
It can be intimidating, even with him. And at the time, it started with him and I started doing it with others as well. I don't like to have one-on-ones behind the desk. Like, I don't want to sit across from you because I think when you do that, you kind of create I'm higher than you. Yeah. I like to be beside you. So what we would do was all of our one-on-ones were walking one-on-ones. Yeah. We'd leave the office and walk. We'd go to a gas station, go buy something together. Yeah. And I think better when I walk. He thinks better when he walks. Yep. And it allowed us to be vulnerable. Yeah. Because no one else was around. We weren't in this office space. So that's where we were able to have more of those conversations. So I always recommend if you have Slack going off, Teams going off, you're in a busy environment, sometimes just get out of that environment with your one-on-ones. It'll help you focus on them, but it also brings the guard down so you can find out more.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. There's somebody else I heard say that, I don't know who was, some famous CEO or whatever, said they do the same thing. Like they take them to the park or whatever, and that's like their promotional meetings, wow. So that they feel a lot more comfortable talking about what's going on at work and then also with themselves and why that may impact why certain things aren't being delivered or how they were able to succeed. And they can use that as, learning lessons for, the rest of the other employees. So absolutely. It's dope, man. Okay. So you are now this super perfect manager. What happens next, man?
So when I got back to America, I realized my salary was not going to take us anywhere. Gotcha. We literally moved back to the hood. Okay. We ended up coming back to a worse situation than we left.
You were at 32 as analyst. What'd you get to as a manager?
So as a manager, I want to say I was getting paid 50. 51, okay. With a bonus, 55.
Okay. So when you reload back, they didn't bump it up?
No.
That's crazy.
So the 50 was in Mexico. I felt great.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I was doing well.
They didn't do no adjustments coming back?
Nothing.
Wow.
So coming back home was painful. Okay. And also, we weren't living as far out. Now we're in Roswell, which was a bit more expensive.
Oh, yeah, no, Roswell. Yeah. Roswell's a grip.
Yeah. So, hearing gunshots, literally gunshots.
In Roswell?
Vehicles, yeah. Where we were, there's a specific neighborhood. Hopefully, they cleaned it up by now. Okay. Online, it looks great. Yeah. It's a bunch of townhomes that look, safe. But when you actually get there, you realize there's a crack motel right outside of it. So a lot of crime would happen. So it was scary. It was scary, but we stayed there up till our lease was over and we were out. But I remember looking at my wife and she told me, she said, "You got to leave." I had been in this company for almost 5 years now. I had
Yeah.
gone from an analyst to senior analyst, to supervisor to manager to global manager. I really wanted that director role, and they kept telling me, we see you as a director.
Yeah.
But I couldn't wait around for it. And even if I did, I knew the pay wouldn't be what it needed to be.
How long have you been with the company then?
I had been with them almost 5 years at that point.
Okay.
So still a nice bump from 32 to 55-ish.
Yeah.
But I ended up applying for a director role.
Okay.
And got an opportunity after several interviews. And salary was bumped up to like 92 at the time.
Nice.
You know, not including bonuses.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, now this is life changing.
Yeah.
We were able to move to a nice high rise apartment in Perimeter area. That wasn't even that much more expensive, which is great.
Gotcha.
But it opened up doors where I'm happy now. I'm a director. I should be able to help my mom out a little bit better because she was getting worse. My dad had passed away a couple of years earlier. So in this new role, I realized day 2, I can't do my job at this company.
Okay. What you mean? Like you didn't understand like the role and stuff?
It was set up poorly.
Okay.
I always called it the world's oldest startup because they had been around for about 30 years.
Okay.
And it was another outsourcer, but they were smaller. They had some big name clients.
Gotcha.
And I'm there, and I was hired on to be the director of workforce management, which means I'm doing all the human logistics, the supply chain management of human labor and capital.
Gotcha.
Working really close with finance. But it was such a mess that I said I need to be able to I need to be able to clean up the entire operation for this to be successful. So what I ended up doing was I took the manager who reported to me. Mm-hmm. I got with our operations manager. I got with our manager of training and our manager of quality. Okay. And I locked us all in a room secretly. I said, this is going to be called Team Mission Impossible. Okay. We need to figure out how to restructure this organization so that this actually works. Okay. And how do we do it in a way where it actually is a cost benefit, not a cost? It breaks the bank. Okay. So we ended up designing it and got everything down over the course of about a week or two. I then have a meeting with the board. Okay. Present it to them. Mind you, at this point, I'm 28. Yeah. I'm Black. It's a Catholic driven company. A lot of older white folks. There, right? Which is fine. Yeah. But I felt it because all of my peers were at least 30 years older than me, you know, and not my race. Yeah. So presenting to the board, I didn't know how they would react. Gotcha. They loved it. I said, it's great, but now you're also our director of operations. Okay. So I said, go ahead and clean the whole thing up. No pay bump. Yeah. But clean the whole thing up. So now I'm working on kind of redesigning this company. And when you're dealing with something like that, you have to be careful because you're dealing with folks who've been there 10 years. Yeah. You don't ever want to walk into a company and tell someone the way you've been doing it is wrong. Right. Right. Or say, I see these opportunities. You should fix all these things. You want to walk in there and say, what are your pain points? You know, what are your challenges today? And then guide them to kind of see what you see and say, okay, I'm going to take care of all your problems. Yep. Once you take care of those problems, now you can introduce your ideas because you've actually met them where they are and they've seen you execute. Yep. Yep. So we were able to turn that around. But the hard part for me was about 2 months into my role there, my mother passed away unexpectedly. Okay. And that drove me in a dark place because everything I was doing was for her. Yeah. You know, I was driving to a place where if I can get enough finances, I can get a big enough home, I can make sure she's always around, she has the care she needs, where it doesn't put too much pressure on my wife and the kids. Yeah. And then she passes away and there's guilt there. It's like, it's my fault. I didn't do enough. So I ended up pouring myself into work unhealthily, if that's even a word. Yeah. Where I was working 10, 12-hour days and getting off of work and falling asleep on the couch, you know, not even spending time with the family because I just felt like I had to outwork my guilt. Yeah. And at that company, our biggest client was threatening to leave us. Okay. You know, and I'm looking at these hundreds of people who work here that if that client leaves, everyone's gone. So my COO comes to me and he says, I want to get rid of the leader of operations over there. I need you to step in and fix it. And I said, yes, you know, I'm the fixer. Okay. So I go over there and I realize, okay, the culture's broken because there was never any real coaching or development. It was all led by fear. There was no real KPIs being managed. I mean, it was bad to the point where people were just fighting. People would get up and do what they wanted. People were quitting, not showing up to work on time. It was a circus. Okay. But there was a lot of distrust there because they felt as if the company didn't care about them. So I ended up having to pull together town halls and just having open dialogue. Curse, say what you need to say. Let's just put it all out there. Gotcha. And the team just felt like they weren't being led. So we were able to turn that around because we made a contract together. Here's my commitment of what I'm not going to be, and here's the commitment of what you are going to be and how we can be successful together.
Right.
And at that point, I was also closer to their age. They could relate to me. So they felt as if, okay, let's put our trust behind them. So within 60 days, we turned it around.
Nice.
And we saved that client. And, a few months later, I get promoted to vice president.
Okay.
And I bring on a director to come take over that role. Or take over the role under me. So it was a moment of success with, once again, more guilt. Because this didn't happen in time.
Yeah. Folks,
Mom's gone, couldn't help her. Dad's gone, he couldn't see what I became. You know? So it was one of those things where I didn't take it as well.
Yeah. That's tough, man. Did you do any like counseling or anything during the time, bro?
I didn't.
Okay. Is there like a reason why?
No, what I ended up doing, I was very insecure.
Okay.
If you saw me every day, I was wearing a suit because I'm already in a role that I felt like was bigger than me.
Gotcha.
I didn't know if I earned it. My dad loved suits. So wearing that suit, I felt like I was him.
Yeah.
Whereas like I'm living the life that he wanted to live.
Yeah.
So because of my insecurities, every single day when I would wake up, do my Bible verse, while I'm getting ready, I'm listening to a podcast or an interview, a fireside chat, an audiobook, something that was teaching me about leadership every day because I just wanted to learn about leadership. Gotcha. And I wanted to feed myself first because of the guilt of, or I guess more of the insecurity of, do I know what I'm doing?
Gotcha.
So that actually helped me throughout the process because a lot of leadership lessons teach you how to grieve and deal with stress and concerns. But at that point, I still didn't have an actual mentor.
Gotcha.
All my mentors were virtual mentors.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So even with the first gig, what's the name of that company again? The one with the analyst role? That
was Results.
With Results, it was a virtual mentor that you had during that time? Or you didn't have one?
None at all. Back then, it was really just work. I didn't even know mentorship was important. Okay.
Okay. So, and then this company is?
Yeah. And this company was called Donnelly at the time.
Okay. Donnelly. And then with this company, you had a mentor?
Yeah, and when I say virtual mentors, they're not people I talk to. These are people I watch. You know what I mean? There is no back and forth.
Gotcha.
A virtual mentor to me is someone that
you just observe with them.
Okay, gotcha. Marcus Lemonis, I love what he's doing. I'm going to watch every interview, every lesson he's ever talked about. Gotcha. So it was a one-way street.
Gotcha.
I didn't get an actual mentor until I worked for Comcast a couple of years later.
Okay.
And that's where I learned, oh, wait, there's people I can get this back from.
Gotcha. Did you actively pursue the mentor or did it just organically happen?
Most of the time organically.
Okay.
I'm very much a person of, I try not to come and ask you for something unless we have a rapport.
Okay.
Okay. And I want to make sure I give you something before I ask for something.
Gotcha.
And I believe in a mentor is not someone you talk to every day.
Gotcha.
It can be.
Yeah.
But usually your mentor is that person that you have your ship and you're going in this direction and you may be getting off course.
Check-ins.
And they're just the person to kind of push you on the right back on the right course or tell you, hey, you can actually go on this journey instead. So I've always used my mentors more as a lever to pull and not a crutch to hold on to.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good, man. All right, so pivoting back a bit now. So you restructured sort of like your biggest client. Things are going really well.
Yeah.
And then how long were you with this company?
I think a little over 2 years.
2 years, okay. What, I guess, led you to leave? You don't have to say.
We can just be honest at this point. They sold the company.
Okay.
Really what it was I was overworked.
Gotcha.
I had too much on my plate. But in addition, my compensation was way too low. As a vice president, I was making, low six figures.
Okay.
And then they never gave me my bonus checks that they owed me.
Oh, wow. Till this day?
They ended up giving it to me right when I was leaving.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But it was one of those things where it was, I put out more, and I never care about compensation. I will always do things before it. But it got to a place where it felt like it was taking more from me than given to me. Yeah. And I wasn't inspired. I had done enough to set it up to be done well, even after I was gone.
Right.
My wife, she's like my barometer on, you're not in a good place.
Gotcha.
And it's okay to not be in a good place. I think a lot of times the youth think that if it's stressful and you leave, no, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
It's when it's breaking you.
Yeah.
That's when it's time to leave.
Yeah.
You can bend, but don't break.
Right.
And there I was broken. And I think also with my mother's passing, it just made it worse where it was time. So I left there and I took a demotion to a director role, but to a much bigger scope. I was now over a $250 million account.
Okay. This was with Comcast?
This was a company called Alorica.
Okay.
Because at the time it was the largest outsourcer in America.
Gotcha.
And I was supporting AT&T and DirecTV.
Okay.
So I had teams all over the U.S., Latin America, the Philippines. Built
Nice.
a huge team out in the Philippines.
Okay.
And what was great about it was that I was able to hire the manager that I had replaced me at Results when I was in Mexico.
Yeah.
I hired her to be my
Okay.
senior manager.
Okay.
And then the manager that I promoted when I was at Donnelly, I hired him as one of my senior managers.
Gotcha.
So it was a great experience to kind of come to that company and now have these two individuals work under me. And it was the best experience.
Nice. Man.
But Allura at the time, they were transitioning to offshore most of that work.
Okay.
So I saw the writing on the wall. I didn't know if my role would be there in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Laid some of my folks off. And that's when I went to Comcast, where I said, it's time. I've always wanted to leave the outsourcing side and now go to a captive environment, which is the client side.
Gotcha.
And Comcast, which is such a great company from an employee experience standpoint.
Nice.
So I applied, did 12 different interviews.
Okay.
And then relocated to Colorado.
12 for the one job? What sort of job is it?
So I was director.
Okay. 12 interviews. Wow.
Comcast, at the time, they may have changed.
Mhm.
They are very strict about who they hire.
Okay.
They do a lot of internal promotions.
Gotcha.
And what I love about Comcast is they don't pigeonhole you.
Okay.
So it's not a situation where you're just a marketing guy. It's no, great, you know marketing. Let's move you over to retail. Great, you know retail. Let's move you over to support.
Gotcha.
So they try to get you everywhere, and they call it rounding your cube,
Okay.
where they want you to be a well-rounded executive who knows everything about the telecommunications and media business.
Nice.
So going to work for Comcast, Universal, NBC, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I get to see a different aspect of it. But it was 12 rounds of interviews, you know, and I did 4 of them virtually, and I did 8 in one day.
Yeah. No,
on
that's
the
wow.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, I did 4 rounds. I thought that was a lot, but bro, 12. Something different, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old were you then?
So Comcast, I was definitely in my 30s at this point. I want to say maybe this is 2018. So maybe I'm about 32, 33.
Okay. So you're still fairly young. I mean, in such a high leadership role, that's still good. Did you face the same sort of like demographics in terms of working with much older individuals?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
But it wasn't as bad. Maybe at this point, 15 to 20 years older than me. Some of them 10. My 2 peers are far older than me. You know, they're in my specific department, because Comcast is broken up into, you have the West Division, Central Division, Northeast Division, then you have the national team. Okay. So I was hired onto the West Division. The great thing about it, though, was the president of our division was a black man, Steve White. Okay. He's one of those mentors that ended up coming up in life.
Gotcha.
And he was also the 12th interview and the hardest interview. You know, everyone had that positive Comcast employee energy. They were just really easy to talk to and work with. And as soon as I sit in his office, the mood shifts. Huge office, by the way. He has a boardroom in his office. Yeah. So we sit down and he's like, he slams down his book. He's like, I lead a $15 billion division with over 20 million customers, XYZ. Why should I even hire you? And then he's like, well, you wear a suit nice. I looked really nice that day. So yeah, so you can wear a suit, but what about this? Yeah. If I do this, well, I have to worry about you going home and crying to your wife, Sierra. You know, it was like he was trying to get emotion out of me. Yeah, yeah. And then he said something about my mother, and that's why I let him know my mom passed. But I answered everything really well, and he had a smile on his face, like, dang, this guy's good. I could just see that I had broken through, where it's like, you're not going to shake me off my game. Yeah, yeah. So we wrapped the interview, and then, fly home. I'm told a few days later, hey, you got the job. I'm excited. I'm relocating out. Okay. Find out my wife's pregnant with our 3rd kid. Okay, okay. But when I ended up moving to Colorado, I want to say my 2nd month there, what they would do every quarter is these all hands, the division all hands. We do one at HQ and at each regional office. Okay. And Steve was leading this one. And we get there, and then he calls me out. Hey, Sean, how you doing? I hope the family's doing well. He knew remember my mother's name, my wife's name. Yeah. I'm like, how does he remember? We had one interview months ago. We talked for maybe 30 minutes, and he remembered everything. Yeah. So at that moment, I just knew, okay, he's someone I want to model and kind of see how he moves, because he knows how to turn it on. Yeah. But he also knows when to know the human side of you. Yeah, that's dope. All right. So from a moving record standpoint, Georgia, or Atlanta-ish, well, Roswell for a bit. Well, no. All over Georgia. All over Georgia. Mexico. You come back to Georgia again. Yeah. And then now Chicago. Colorado. Colorado, sorry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Colorado. And we're in Colorado? one of my offices was in Denver and the other one was in Colorado Springs, but my home was in Castle Rock, right in the middle.
Gotcha. Okay. How did you like manage that with the fam, bro?
For my oldest one, I felt bad.
Okay.
Because now he was becoming like me.
Yeah.
Constantly moving.
Yeah.
And at that point, I felt as if he needed a home base, and we loved it there.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado was probably the best experience we probably had as a family,
okay.
from a cohesiveness standpoint.
Yep.
And then COVID hit, so we definitely got close. But they were the only two Black boys in their school. Mm. So my youngest one, of course, he was born there. I like to joke that all three of my kids were born in different time zones. Okay. My second son was born in Louisiana. We were living in Mexico. We had him in Louisiana with my wife's parents.
Gotcha.
But with them being the only two Black boys in school, my two oldest, I was nervous. That was my biggest fear about Colorado. I wasn't worried about, moving away from family and friends. It was that, will my kids get bullied? Will they have true friends who don't turn their back on them when racist things start to happen?
Right.
And I was grateful that it didn't happen. This is during the Trump era. I had MAGA trucks by my house.
Yeah.
Everyone there was nice. Where we lived, great people.
Right.
But I knew that I needed to get them around our culture, though.
Right.
Because it's good for them to be exposed, mm-hmm. but I really wanted them to understand, okay, you see what it's like to now live with, a large percentage of white people.
Yeah. You've
been around Mexican people. Let's have you raised around Black people as well.
Yeah.
And so you can understand why the world is the way it is. You don't have that one track view of, I only want to be around white or Mexican folks.
Gotcha. And then what about the wife? What's she doing then?
I felt bad because she had gotten her real estate license in Atlanta. She started to pick up.
Okay.
She started to get her deals done and kind of build a brand for herself. So we had to make that decision of relocating to Colorado. And she said, you know what? I'll pause my license. I'll come out there. She lost momentum. And she was a stay-at-home mom at the time, primarily because we just had our youngest one.
Okay.
And over the years, she hadn't really worked consistently since we got married in 2012.
Gotcha.
So at this point, she had been used to it. But we always thought, how do we have a business on the side? So her and I started a real estate investing company at the time.
Nice.
And we did a lot of that. So she was in charge of a lot of that.
Okay. Awesome, man. Yeah. We talked about it. We moved a lot too.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always thought about was just the impact also on my wife, because I was a military brat, so I was used to that, relocation every 2-3 years, whatever it was. But for her, she was a constant, like where she was at. Man. So that took a toll on her, community wise and all that other stuff. So yeah,
I want to say, and that's the one thing I always push on my wife, like build a tribe. Find other moms. This is the one time she did, mm-hmm. and they would do stuff like with a hot tub together and hang out. It was it was nice to see her build that tribe. Because to your point, we can't be everything.
Yeah, yep.
Even if we can, it's still not enough.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know she's in a house full of boys. Even our dog was a boy at the time. She needed some female energy.
Gotcha. Okay, so when did the realization that you needed to leave Colorado?
Yeah. It was during COVID.
Okay.
So it was 2020. And to be honest, I had an opportunity to get a promotion within Comcast that would have allowed us to relocate home because it was going to be a national role.
Gotcha.
And I would have been a part of the vendor management team where instead of just focusing on internal, I would have been able to look at all of our external resources.
Gotcha.
And at the time, my senior vice president blocked it. She had the president call me and say, hey, Sean, we need you to stay in the division. We see something in you.
Okay.
So I stopped it and go for that role. Several months later, COVID hits. And we're realizing we don't want what happened with my mom to happen with her mother or her father.
Yeah.
We want to make sure our kids are around their cousins, their grandparents, because you just never know. Anything could happen. COVID kind of woke us up.
Yeah.
So during that time, I started looking for roles to transfer within Comcast to Atlanta.
Gotcha.
And I was interviewing, becoming a finalist, but ultimately I couldn't get any of those roles because there was nervousness about the department budget. So they were saying, we want you for these roles.
Yeah.
But if I don't promote this person in my department now, they may never get a promotion.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So I was still interviewing, but then all of a sudden I got a phone call from a company named Toast.
Okay.
At the time, Toast, if you don't know who they are, they're a tech company, POS software, payroll systems, anything that you need to run a restaurant business, they do it.
Okay.
And at this time, they're pre-IPO.
Okay.
So they reach out to me and they say, hey, we'd love to interview you and here are the challenges of the team. We're missing A, B, C, and D. And that's all you have to say to me. Whenever you tell me something's broken, I want to go there and fix it. So because they were willing to relocate me back to Atlanta, I could work from home. we decided to say yes. I did not want to leave Comcast. I loved Comcast, but
Yeah.
I always wanted to work for an official tech company.
Gotcha.
You know, I've always worked in tech departments, but I wanted to have that experience, especially startup, because
Yeah.
I used to watch TechCrunch Cribs all the time.
Okay,
You know, see
okay.
what it was like. And
Yeah.
I even started 3 different tech companies that, you know, I was the founder of, and they failed over the years.
Okay.
I just love tech.
Yeah.
So joining the company was great. And it got us to move back home. So we came back here to Atlanta.
Okay.
That was 2021, January 2021.
Okay. This was an on-site role, I'm assuming? Or hybrid?
Work from home.
Or remote?
Yeah, because our headquarters is in Boston.
Gotcha.
But we also had a team in Omaha. And then
Okay.
everything else was outsourced.
Okay. So everybody literally was all over.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Was this your first fully remote role?
No, at Results, I was fully remote for a while.
Gotcha.
It started off on-site,
Gotcha.
then hybrid, then fully.
Gotcha.
Then I moved to Mexico, came back fully remote again.
Gotcha.
Alorica started off on-site, hybrid, then fully remote.
Okay.
And then Comcast was fully in the office. They didn't believe in that. Right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
COVID forced that.
Gotcha. What are, I guess, from a management style, what are things that you would say are positives and negatives from a, being on site, seeing face to face and all that versus like managing people remotely?
Yeah, I think when you're on site, you move faster. The level of collaboration and ideas you can have, I think can move a little bit faster in a room.
Okay.
You hear more voices.
Yeah.
I think if we utilize our virtual tools better, we can actually we can outpace what happens in the office.
Gotcha.
Because you use the raised hand versus just coming off mute and kind of cutting each other off. You can make sure everyone's heard. So things just happen better. I think also you just have better camaraderie. There's less misunderstandings.
Gotcha.
When you work from home, it's a little bit of, I'll see you in this meeting for this bit of time, and that's it.
Yeah.
If I don't put a one-on-one on your calendar, I'm not going to get to know you. Whereas in the office, we may just cross paths.
Yeah.
And now we're talking. But the challenge of the office for me was always productivity.
Yeah.
I'm less productive in the office than I am at home.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here.
Because you get stopped, people are talking to you, you want to get up and walk. So it's at home, I'm more productive, but I work longer, or I don't realize I'm working all the time.
Yeah. That definitely is the challenge. I find myself down in the basement office often. My wife's like, "Hey, you coming to bed?"
Yes.
Okay, so you're at Toast. What were you doing at Toast?
So senior director, workforce management.
Okay.
Helping them restructure the operations side as well.
Okay.
And plan on being there, investing all 4 years. That was my plan.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I won't get into all the details, but I wasn't a fan of leadership at the time.
Gotcha.
In my specific department, the rest of the company was great. Okay. Several of my peers had already left the company.
Gotcha. And
I realized, like, man, this guy, we keep butting heads.
Yeah.
I felt as if he was doing things without integrity.
Okay.
And I'm very much, let's do it the right way. Let's do it the honest way. And let's get it done. And my job was to hold us accountable as a partner to finance. So that's always tough, right? When you're telling your boss, I need you to be able to adhere and do this the right way, but your boss doesn't want to.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is my wife ended up needing spinal surgery. So I was going to be out for 3 months. And some things that were done underhandedly to my team while I was out, some narratives were made where when I was coming back, I said, you know what? I don't know if I want to come back.
Gotcha. And
I realized he wasn't the problem. I was the problem.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times you have to sit back and have some introspection.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, as the vice president of our department, he ultimately owned the direction and vision of what he wanted to create. He had his own insecurities and he lacked certain areas that I was strong in. And I realized I wasn't supposed to be in my role. I went back to a compartmentalized role of just leading one of the parts of the department when I had the capability to lead all of it.
Yeah.
So I said, I need to go back to being that VP where I own the whole thing. So in my next role, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to do that.
Okay.
So I was recruited by a company called Bullhorn.
Okay. They
are a HR software company. Outstanding company, private equity owned.
Okay.
Been around a long time, strong financials. And they had me do an exam. I aced the exam, one of the highest that I've ever done it from a cognitive standpoint.
Yeah.
They just loved me. Compensation was great. Now I'm in multiple 6 figures at this point, right? Even with the base.
Nice.
And I'm going to accept this role. And I reach out to a former colleague of mine who was at Toast and now went over to a company called Dutchie. So I reach out to her and I say, hey, there's an opportunity at this company that's also based in Boston. Do you know them? What are your thoughts on them? Can I use you as a reference? And she says to me, no, I don't know them, but hold that thought. we're hiring that same role at Dutchie, and I want you to talk to our executive team first.
Nice.
I said, wow, okay. What's going on at Dutchie? I mean, I was the one who actually convinced her to take that job. So I said, okay, how are things been going since you've been there? She's like, it's going great. A lot of opportunities. They're a couple years behind where Toast was. So it's like going to Toast in reverse, but point of sale, e-com, but it's for the cannabis industry, for cannabis dispensaries.
Okay, let me stop for you for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
With Toast, you said they were pre-IPO. Did you leave before they went public?
I left after IPO, so thank you for stopping me.
Ooh, okay.
Well, it didn't work out in my favor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was there pre-IPO.
Yeah.
And I remember I'm about 8 or 9 months in.
Okay.
We IPO. My wife and I are actually on a plane in Hawaii for a friend's wedding.
Yeah.
I look at my Fidelity account. I'm looking at millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was an amazing experience.
Right.
But the stock crashed dramatically afterwards, right? Where it started to go. That's what it does. It'll spike and then it'll go down. But we'll wait it out. But when I decided to leave, I had stock options. I didn't have RSUs.
Okay.
Yeah, I had RSUs at Comcast, but not at Toast. And RSUs are restricted stock units for those who don't know.
Yep.
And you don't have to pay for those. Those are just given to you. Whereas stock options is what I had.
Yeah.
I have to put in cash to convert those or sell those on the market. By the time I left, my stock options were worth more than cost more than what the value was in the market.
Gotcha.
So I only had 90 days to vest.
Yeah.
And if I didn't invest in that 90 days, I wouldn't get anything. And I just didn't trust to say, do I really want to spend money to get money and hope that it goes up one day?
Yeah.
So I left there with nothing, basically.
Gotcha.
But it was a nice experience.
Okay. Yeah. That would have shocked the mess out of me. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at Dutchie, similar setup where when I joined, strong base.
Yeah.
No bonus. There were no bonuses, but it was all really based on stock.
Okay.
So they gave me a pretty nice comp package there from a stock standpoint.
Okay, gotcha. Did you ever get any RSUs like past? Comcast, got RSUs?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay. After Comcast, did you get any RSUs or just straight stock options? Okay.
Everything was stock options. That primarily because I'm not sure if, and educate me on this, I don't know if pre-IPO companies give out RSUs. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you get shares.
Yeah. So the ones that I was at, they all only want to do options,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was with a what do you call those folks? They were trying to become a crypto bank.
Yes.
And I had like 1,000 shares, whatever, and they were, I think, projected to be like 82, and then we just crashed literally that year.
Man.
But that was a good experience. But I just would have loved to kind of see that been exercised,
I agree.
But okay, so you are now with which company?
Dutchie.
Okay, so what's going on with Dutchie now?
Yeah, so with Dutchie, I joined the company. I love it. Of course, we're all remote still because of the fact that we're still in COVID.
Okay.
Or just coming out of it. It's just the setup that we're in. I think it's 2022 at this point.
Okay.
And we had just raised a lot of capital as well.
Okay.
But as we're getting towards the end of the year, the market's shifting.
Okay. And your role at Dutchie?
Vice President of Customer Support.
Okay, cool.
So I owned all of it. Now, going back to my point, I went back to the role that allowed me to control the holding versus a segment because you clash sometimes when you know a little too much.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm having to build everything out because they're missing certain things. There are certain departments like quality assurance, workforce management that I had to build out from scratch.
Gotcha.
Bringing in scorecards, key roles, responsibility, all of that did not exist. What AI platforms are we going to be using, chatbots, etc.
Okay.
All of that had to be mapped.
And what year was this?
This was 2022 through 2024.
Okay. All right. So ChatGPT is kind of in flow a little bit now. Okay. Gotcha.
And really, so we got hit with, so I have a process that I use. And this is at every company that I go into whenever I'm asked to come in and kind of restructure.
Mm-hmm.
I call it IMO or I Momentum.
Okay.
The I stands for my last name.
Gotcha.
But I created this out of the need to just have a system in place for myself and also to hold myself accountable to not try to over race my race.
Gotcha.
What I mean by that is a lot of times we try to do too much and we end up falling. So the way the process works is that there's 4 different phases. Your first phase is what I call the foundation phase. I usually take 90 days to do that one. So I give it about 3 months. And the challenge that with that early on was that typically in your first 90 days, you're like, this is when I have to make an impact. I have to have a big win. I don't do that anymore. my first 90 days, I say, okay, you brought me in here. I have to fly this plane that's a bad plane, but at the same time, I have to create another plane at the same time. So in order for me to do that, I have to still do what you need me to do over here.
Yeah.
So how do I set it up where I build a system that will be strong and nothing can stop it from going forward? How do I build momentum? So in the foundation phase, I'm just worried about key roles, responsibilities, KPIs, the reporting that we're going to use, so that we're not arguing about my data says this, my data says that. What's our meeting cadence going to be? Who's the owners? Who are the stakeholders? And just locking that down, and then we put it in place.
Gotcha.
And then for the next phase is called the performance management phase. That's just where all we're doing is the same routine over and over again. Same report, same meetings, who's responsible, and just kind of going through that.
Yep.
Because we got to get our rhythm. It has to become who we are. We can't get lazy.
Right.
Then the next 6 months, I call the innovation phase.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you start introducing things like, how do we take what we have now and we automate them? How do we bring in better software to do these things? How do we have new clever ideas and try pilot programs and new teams and just try to bring in some innovation in what we're doing?
Gotcha.
While we're still doing performance management. Performance management never stops.
Okay.
The last phase is what I call the optimize phase, where you find value.
Okay.
How do I reduce cost? So great, we're performing well, we're bringing in innovation, but now how do I make my department go from a cost center to a profit center?
Gotcha.
And what I'm bringing in are going to be things like AI, like chat bots, et cetera, email bots, self-service for customers, agent assist programs, how to make the agents able to get more information without having to go through 3 different programs to get it.
Yep.
Workflow automation. How do I take workflows and automate that? In introducing sales, how do I add some type of upsell to what we do or help us do lead generation for customer success?
Nice.
So once you have that 18-month period of kind of just rolling this out, you just build momentum. When problems happen, they don't slow you down. You're able to keep moving forward. And I say it all the time. My favorite John Maxwell quote is when he talks about momentum. He says, if you take a train going 50 miles an hour, it can break through a 5-foot thick steel reinforced wall without stopping. But that same train, if it's not moving and you put a 1-inch brick under it, it won't move. So that's why you need momentum, so that when problems happen, your systems are so strong that throw it right in. There's a flywheel. Throw it in and we're going to pick it up.
Right. Nice, man. So what did you learn, I guess, from this new job that in terms of what you were doing in the past? Because with everything you've been doing, you've been looking at growth, right?
Yeah.
And then even now we're talking about, and we're going to get there, what we plan on doing in the continent. What did you learn, I guess, with developing these systems that I guess in the past that you didn't learn before? And how did you learn that?
It was really, I got a chance to launch it at a bigger scale.
Okay.
And also launching it within a tech company.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is when you're working for tech, especially pre-IPO tech, so Dutchie's still pre-IPO.
Yep.
They're still figuring themselves out. And Dutchie went from an inflection point of being a high growth, fast startup, raise capital, burn capital, and just keep going, get as big as you can, to the market shifted, and now we have to be cost conscious. Now they want to see a path to profitability, reduce your burn rate. So the company had to grow up. So my department was already headed on that track of how do we make it grow up and actually make this make sense from a business standpoint.
Okay.
So to be within a company that was changing like that was one of those things where it helped me better understand the human dynamic, right?
Okay.
Because change management only works when you communicate. A lot of times we think, let's roll out change and everyone's going to say, yay, let's go ahead and do it.
Right.
Or you point the finger at them and say, you have to do this. It doesn't work like that. What you have to really lean into in those situations are, how do I get the team to, for one, trust in the process? And how do I get them enough information where they understand the why and give them space for feedback so we can maybe pivot? What I learned is grab influencers on the team first. So I want to figure out, you may not be a leader, but you're an influencer. Everyone looks at John. When John says something, the team rallies around him. So during that planning phase, I started learning, pulling John as a part of that process.
Gotcha.
So that he's now part of the creation. So when he goes out there, he'll be a champion of it. And what I learned is that when people become owners of a change, they treat it completely different.
You buy in. Yeah.
The buy-in's different.
Yeah. Cool, man. All right. So let's fast forward a bit now. So where does you traveling to Africa and thinking about like workspaces, where does that come in?
Yeah. So going back to results, when I was living in Mexico, I remember thinking, this is around 2013.
Okay.
I was thinking, I would love to start my own contact center in Nigeria one day, because Nigeria has a large economy, native speakers of English. Why aren't we doing more of that in Africa?
Right.
But at the time, we had challenges like infrastructure. When you look at, everything was on-prem back then, nothing was in the cloud.
Yeah.
So the power grid, all those concerns, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up planning to have my own contact center, put together a business plan of when I was going to launch in America, but I ended up not doing it. It took a lot of capital.
Yeah.
So I never thought about it again. This is 2013.
Okay.
Fast forward to 2023, when I was at Dutchie, I was introduced to this amazing woman. Her name is Joteka. And it was a conference I spoke at, and the owner of the conference, he said, before you come back again this year, get on the phone with this woman. You two need to talk. Her and I get on the phone, and it's as if we knew each other our whole lives. We talked for 3 hours, nonstop, just talking.
Yeah.
And she's telling me about how the work they're doing in Africa to bring jobs out there, because I'll give you an example. In South Africa, the unemployment rate for Black women was about 4 times what it was for everyone else. And a lot of the times it's because they were redlining the schools. They were saying, yes, you have a degree, but you went to a school over here, so we're not going to hire you.
Gotcha.
So they were intentionally doing things to change that.
Yep.
And they were also hiring roles that were a little bit different, like engineering, front end, back end, graphic designers, giving you that more skill set role.
Yeah.
So she said, I need you to come with me to Africa in a month. I said, there's no way. For one, that's a week before I go to Afrotech.
Yeah.
Like I have a whole team, and like I have a job.
Yeah.
But I figured it out. I said, okay, I'm going to be there. We flew to Nairobi, Kenya, spent a few days on the ground there. And I learned in that process that we were going to go see a large contact center company that created, I want to say they're the biggest contact center provider across Africa that originated in Africa. Okay. I didn't know we were going to go see them. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is my industry. I know what this is.
Yeah, yeah.
So we pull up and we go in the building, and I'm like, whoa, for one, I feel bad because I travel all over the world and I haven't been home. Yeah. And to see how developed Nairobi was, and to see how developed their systems and processes were, I was blown away. The focus groups, talking to the reps, it just touched my heart. Nice. And we got a chance to go to a city called Tattoo City, which was a new city that was being developed as an innovation hub and a high technology city, where they were building a new building there. And I was like, well, they're doing things at a large scale. So I said, okay, I'm loving this. But then when we went to South Africa, they got me. We go there, see their operations in South Africa again. They have a nonprofit called Career Box. Okay. And that nonprofit, what they do is they take folks from those red line schools and they say, we're going to go ahead and put you in a professional development program. They go through a couple weeks of training, and then they get placed with the client. Gotcha. And because now we're certifying that they have the workforce development experience. But on top of that, what they were doing was they were adopting schools. So we went to one of the schools they adopted. And I remember walking in, I'm seeing all these kids, and I'm looking at 3 kids to 1 desk. Yeah. When they were built to handle 2, but they're having to pile in, and they didn't have a lot of resources. There's barbed wire around the school to protect things. And they had 20 computers to support 500 plus students in the entire school. And they had to put it in a different room because the parents would break in and steal it if it was too high. And I'm looking around, I break down. I'm crying because I go back to my story and I say, I was that kid who messed up in school, dropped out, had to go back and catch back up. And I made it to where I made it. These kids are doing everything right. They're getting their education. They're getting their degrees. There's no jobs for them. Right. Yeah. And it just broke my heart. I said, I can't unsee it. I couldn't unsee it. And I knew at that moment, my mission is to help bring as many jobs to Africa as I could. I brought jobs to countries like Costa Rica, Guyana, Dominican Republic, Mexico, of course, the Philippines, India, all over the U.S. And I've never brought one job home. So I said, I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah. And that was my commitment. So it took me some time, but that was kind of what got me on this path to say, if we don't solve this global problem, because Africa is the youngest continent in the world. It's the youngest people, average age 19 people. US and China were aging out at about 38 on the average age right now. And in about 25 years, there'll be an additional 1.5 billion people on the continent. They need jobs. What are we going to do? The majority of our youth will be on this continent. Yep. So I just wanted to be a part of solving the problem.
Nice, man. Okay, so you left South Africa. I guess, what did you do towards working towards that goal of solving that problem?
Yeah, so now at this point, start building relationships. Okay. Where what really helped, so I maintain relationships. I would refer business out that way. Okay. But what helped me kind of say this is what I'm definitely going to do was in November when I finally went to Nigeria.
Okay.
I went back home to Nigeria, and it was at the Global Entrepreneurship Festival.
Okay.
And I met so many great business leaders from across the world and across Africa. That was great. It was like we were all at summer camp because we'd be at the hotel together, and then we'd go to the conference. We'd go speak on stage, but it was being at the conference. There were 5,000 young entrepreneurs there from all over, not just Nigeria. They would come from Ghana, Liberia. They were coming over to try to pitch their businesses. Yeah, and their businesses weren't the fluffy kind. They weren't coming up with these little tech startups. They were thinking, how do we solve real world problems that they were experiencing? Yeah. So, I decided to spend time with them where a lot of my friends, they went back to a session and do a book signing. I said, no, I'm gonna stay out here. Yeah. And it was over 100 of them who came up to me, tell me your ideas, like a quick little Shark Tank. Tell me your idea. What's your business plan? What do you want to do? No, this won't work. This will work. And just having these conversations and just giving them that feedback. Nice. And it was like, okay, we have to do something. The need is here. Even the great ideas are here, but there's no one that even knows they're here. The talent's here, but the financials aren't here. The venture capital is not here. Yeah. They don't even know how to present to venture capital. They're being taught just to create these fluffy pitch decks, but that's not even what the venture capitalists want to see. They want to see other things. So that brought me on a path of, okay, I want to bring jobs here, but I also want to help these young startups understand how to even scale a business or get to a place where you can actually get seed funding. Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about that. Like, let's say young entrepreneur in Nigeria or somewhere in Africa wants to build an app, and they have this great idea. Everybody has a great idea, right? And they want to get some investors to buy in. What would you advise, and kind of walk us through that process?
Yeah, depending on the type of app it is, but typically, let's say it's an app that requires users, right?
Yep.
It's a user-based driven app. Mm-hmm. They're not doing B2B, they're doing B2C, so they have to touch as many as possible. Yep. I'm going to tell them, look at 3 different things. I need you to, for one, know your TAM. You need to know your total addressable market. I need you to know your ARR. What's going to be your average recurring revenue? Okay. I need you to know your customer acquisition cost. If you know those 3 things, yes. If you know those 3 things, it's easier to get an investment. The reason why is that I need to know how big this is going to be. What is the scale going to be? Once I know that, okay, I know where we can go. What does your revenue look like versus your expense? Most of the expenses that you're going to have early on, once you get to a place where the product is developed and you have your MVP ready, mm-hmm. are going to be towards customer acquisition costs. It's about growing your user base. Yeah. If you don't know what your customer acquisition cost is going to be, I can't even value your company. Right. Because I need to know your burn rate. If I give you $1 million today, how quickly you're going to burn out of it, and what's going to be the ROI? Yeah. How many users will we get? So typically understanding that, what I tell them is, okay, great, you have those 3 metrics. Awesome. Who's your technical co-founder if you're not the technical co-founder? If you are the technical co-founder, who is going to be your CEO, aka your sales co-founder? Yeah. You need someone who can speak on behalf of your company and be able to sell this vision for you, because they're going to care about your team as well and what you're doing. The third thing that I'm seeing a lot is they're trying to outsource a lot of the coding. And that's fine, but I'm not a fan of it if you do it too much too early on. Yeah. Investors want to know that you own the source code. Yep. If you outsource it and you're paying this company to do all this work and something goes wrong, right, you can't even fix it. Right. If you get far down the path and something goes wrong, who's going to fix it? Right. So make sure you're actually owning that source code, whether or not you have to hire those folks and it's all done in your sandbox, you oversee it, whatever you have to do. But your technical co-founder shouldn't just be outsourcing. They should be part of the coding process.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think a lot of the terms that you kind of threw out, whether it's TAM, even ROI, what's the other one, the ARR? Like, I think that's not something I hear a lot of like young developers. I'm not in that space in terms of like, evaluating new startups and whatnot. But a lot of times they just come with pitches like, oh, you have this great idea that does X, Y, Z. But from a scalability standpoint, I'm like, well, you built this on this simple server back at home. Yeah. But now when you start thinking about developing this and having customer bases in the US, China, all these other places, how are you going to scale that? Have you even looked at what the costs are for that? And I think oftentimes they don't think past that. So from working with individuals who think more so in terms of like local issues, and they don't think from expanded, or I want to scale this to be a global company. How do you kind of open their eyes to you need to develop something that's going to be scalable, but then also something that um, doesn't discourage them. Because I think that's one thing as well. Like you want to present, oh yeah, this you don't meet these standards. These are things that won't work, and this is why it won't work. But how do you present in a way where they still feel encouraged that they can do this, but then also know that these challenges are real, and nobody's going to invest in something that um, you haven't really fully thought through.
Yeah. I think a big part of it for me is giving them alternative ideas. I have one of the companies that I advise. He wanted to shift. He has a great idea, and I won't put it out there.
Okay.
But he has a great idea that could go global. But after he brought on some more people, because he didn't have a set of co-founders to go find that person, after he brought those people on, they ended up wanting to morph it to more of an Airbnb competitor. I said, no, that's not what you need to create.
Yeah.
That's not the path.
Yeah.
Then it morphed, and they wanted to go to a way where they're going directly to the market. And I said, you don't need to do that. Focus on connecting with universities. If you can, essentially he needs the students in dorm rooms. That's basically who his customer base is, right? I said, why don't you just go to one university and set up a customer relationship?
This is local
in Ghana.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
By doing that, you now can have 10,000 users in one location.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to go the expensive marketing route of marketing to the public, and now you have to ramp up. So it's usually hearing what's great about their idea and helping them keep that as their North Star, knowing what makes you special.
Yeah.
Keep that. Don't go and do what's already been done if you have something that's special. Then also being real with them so they can understand that there's good ideas and then there's millennium level ideas where your idea changes the game. Uber changed the game.
Yeah.
No one ever thought we'd be doing ride share and we'd hop in a stranger's car.
Right.
Those are big. That can get you a bunch of money up front, even without the best business plan.
Yeah.
But if your idea is average or good, just know that you're going to have to put more work into it. So my biggest piece of advice for them is stop worrying about raising capital in the beginning.
Yep.
Find advisors. You can get an advisor on your board. Find someone who, obviously you need two advisors. You need a business strategy advisor, someone who understands how your business is supposed to be run and how you can scale. Mm-hmm. And then you need someone who can help your industry. So for example, if your target is universities, I need you to go find someone who's a big name or big expert in the university space.
Yeah.
Put them on your board and give them each 1.5 or 1.25 to 2.5% of equity. It's not even a lot of equity you're giving away.
Right.
But now you have their credibility, their name assigned to you, and you have their intelligence in your board meetings.
Yeah.
And if a lot more of these young entrepreneurs thought that way of let me go find advisors, not investors, they'd get prepared before they even need to get in front of an investor.
Yeah. No, that's really good advice, because I think one thing I always hear also is that I can't go talk to someone so they won't take me serious because I'm just this local poor boy that's developed XYZ, which I get. But I think from a bringing value perspective, I think that's the approach there. Not just, invest in me because I have this, natural gravity. How do you know?
Yes, exactly.
No one's trying to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on something that's not proven yet. There's no metrics behind saying this is going to work. So I think that approach of let me find somebody that's going to buy into my idea and just be an advisor, be on the board. And then they're going to pitch this to a customer. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 customers. Now you have some metrics that you can start giving, data around. So for anyone listening that, is based in the continent, that's something that I think I truly hope that you hear, because this is really important. You have a great idea. We get it. But in terms of it being proven, we don't know. Yeah. And in order to do that, you need to have somebody that's going to buy in locally to be able to get that. And my hope is with the work that you're doing, more people start looking at not just talent in terms of outsourcing, but in terms of developing with local entrepreneurs there as well. Because there's a lot of brilliant people, as you know, back there, but there's not much opportunity. Yeah. And I think if we start looking at it as if these are co-founders that can build the next unicorn ideas, but they just need more opportunity, I think we'll get there, man.
I agree. And really touching on your point of a lot of these folks have the great ideas, but they're in survival mode.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's hard to become an entrepreneur, and especially when they tell you, bootstrap it early on.
Yeah.
You don't even have food in the cabinet.
Right.
So I've been focusing on this problem from two levels, because when I look across Africa, there's so much talk about entrepreneurship. oh, we need more entrepreneurs to develop entrepreneurs. And I say,
Yeah.
who's your customers?
Right.
Where are the customers at?
Right.
We know from an agriculture standpoint, yeah, you'll do well because people need to eat.
Yeah.
But so that's why I also said, okay, I'm helping the startups from an advisory standpoint. Let's get them better. But we also need to bring jobs there through outsourcing.
Yep.
We put so many jobs in Latin America and in Southeast Asia, and even in India. How do we take jobs and put them in Africa where the talent is there, the accents are great, the language is there.
Yep.
And once you start having folks in a place where they're stable, now I have an income, I can feed myself, I can feed my family.
Yep.
Now I can start getting more creative. So I'm not desperate like
Right.
how I was when I was making music.
Yep.
That desperation where I was willing to do anything. I didn't like that. In addition, now they have a customer base.
Yep.
Because they have people who can actually afford their product.
Yeah, yeah. In my country, we call that bread and butter issues. Like, if you don't have food in your belly, no one's thinking about developing some cybersecurity app. Like, you don't care about that stuff. Because at the end of the day, I got to be able to eat.
Yes, I love that.
In South Africa, I was talking to this tech company, Zion Tech, and one of the biggest problems they talked about is a lot of the developers are from India, but they have a lot of developers that are in the country, but they're not being hired because a lot of their jobs are being outsourced. I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah.
You'd rather hire somebody that's at a premium price that's based out of the country,
Wow.
facing network issues and all that other jazz, but there's not that trust of the developers that are there.
Wow.
And I think the more and more we start building capacity around that and start increasing, the know-how, I think there's going to be a lot more confidence in hiring somebody that's local.
Yeah.
And that's my hope with the whole Africans in Tech piece as well.
I
is
agree.
that we start looking at local talent, hiring locally,
Yeah.
and then once you start seeing them develop, I think a lot more people will start trusting in the folks that hire over there.
I agree.
So
My friend Manal and I were just talking about that. She calls it the brain drain, right?
yeah.
Where we're basically outsourcing or exporting all of our talent, all of our mindset. It goes overseas.
Yep.
It never comes back. And how do we do that more often? And even for those of us who are born in the diaspora, how do we go and bring what we know back as well?
Yeah.
So I think it's important, to your point, that we show them that you can do this successfully. You can come home, and back home is not as bad as they make it seem on TV.
Yeah. No, not at all.
In a lot of cases, it's better than here.
Yeah. We just recently bought a couple of real estate back at home, and when I went back, I love America. Please don't get me wrong. I love America, but to me, like the slowness of life and just to be able just to walk on the beach and just kind of be in just the natural, I think that to me is what I miss most about being back home.
Yeah.
And then being around people who are just like, they take life a lot less stressful. Here, we're in a capitalistic society, and I get it.
Yeah.
It's the burn. And I love that the opportunities I've gotten here, I wouldn't have gotten in Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So extremely grateful for
Absolutely.
America, what I've been blessed with. But with that being said, I'm not trying to contribute to the metrics of brain drain where I'm doing all these great things here for these multi-billion-dollar companies, but back home, what am I doing? What have I done to help kind of build a capacity there? And as gonna say something a little controversial with Trump and all the stuff that he says with SO countries and all that other things. A lot of it, I think we play a role in that because we talk often, the diaspora talk often about how bad our country is back home, but we don't do much to go back and actually help build it.
Yeah.
And I think that has to change before we, start pointing fingers everywhere. So
I agree. I think that it's two parts. We need to go back and fix it.
Yeah.
And then also we need to go back and show that it's not broken.
Yeah.
Or not as broken as they say it is. And if we can do a better job of that, it paints a better narrative. Like, for example, what I do a lot now is I connect U.S. brands with outsources in Africa. And when I'm posting online, a lot of people are like, where is that?
yeah,
Wait, that's Africa?
yeah.
And they just don't know.
Right.
So the awareness of getting it out there and being a brand ambassador for the country
Yeah.
is so important.
Yeah, definitely, man. So we're gonna wrap up now, man. But if people wanted to get in touch with you, I mean, you've shared a lot of like great nuggets, man. How can they get in touch with you, man?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Sean the Speaker, SEAN. It's spelled the right way, not the other way. You can also find me on my website, value-centric.net. And I'm also on LinkedIn as Sean Ilenrey. I would love to connect with you and learn more about your journey as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. We're gonna have a separate episode where Sean's gonna do like a 5-10 minute whiteboard session on just the process of like startups or just the idea of what we just talked about here. And I think for any of you who are interested, definitely tune in for that. If there's any questions in addition to what we've talked about, or in regards to anything that was said here that you need clarified, ping us at africansintechnology@gmail.com. Again, it's africansintechnology@gmail.com. My name is Sar Levy, this Africans in Tech. We're building bridges and shaping futures in tech. All right, fam. Blah blah blah. All right, that episode was long, bro.
Man,
That's
I'm
my fault,
sorry.
man.